everybody, good evening on this Halloween evening here, and welcome to Reprieve Media CIC Double Handful with myself, Paul Newman. And what we've got for you coming up today is we've managed to press gang another presenter into making their radio debut here on Reprieve Media CIC. All being well on the line now, we should have, all the way from the good old US of A, Miss Monica McCarthy. Monica, are you there?
Hello. I'm here.
There she is, boys and girls. Monica, may I just say, take this opportunity to welcome you to Reprieve Media CIC, and it's great to have you.
Thank you. I'm very honored to be here today. I appreciate it.
No problem. So if you could just tell us a little bit about yourself, please, Monica. Where are you from?
I'm from originally Decatur, Illinois, which is in the Midwest of the United States. Probably about 3 hours south of Chicago, all in sort of the corn, soybean, flat country. We're very much into farming and manufacturing in this area.
Ah, okay. So, and you're obviously a fan of horse racing, or else you wouldn't be on this show. How did you get into horse racing?
I lived in southern Indiana, which is probably about 5 hours from here, and there was a racetrack there in Kentucky, just across the Ohio River, and it's called Ellis Park. And I started going with a friend, and just fell in love with horse racing. Not so much the handicapping side of it, but just seeing the horses race live, going to the paddock, going back to the barns, and just the whole thing. I just love horses. So as a child, there was another racetrack there in Henderson, that was sulky racing, harness racing. I went there as a child with my parents and their friends, and I had a childhood friend that had ponies that we would ride, and I had some of my cousins out in Colorado. They had paint horses that we would ride. But other than that, I guess it'd be Ellis Park really got to me, and I caught the bug for horse racing and thoroughbreds at Ellis Park in Henderson, Kentucky.
Okay, so when you say Ellis Park, I must say that's a racetrack I'm not really familiar with. Do they have many big races there, or is it just a provincial track?
It is. They have flat racing there. They have a short meet from the 4th of July to Labor Day, which would be July 4th through the first Monday of September. So they have kind of a short meet. The state of Kentucky is set up to where you will never have a track overlapping another track's racing meets. So, like, for instance, like Keeneland in Lexington, they ended their fall meet on Saturday, this last Saturday, and then Churchill Downs in Louisville, Kentucky, started theirs the very next day on Sunday over the weekend. And then, of course, we have the Breeders' Cup races coming up, this weekend, Friday and Saturday. And so the tracks in Kentucky are all set up that way where they never overlap. So,
that's fantastic. So obviously you touched on the Breeders' Cup there. I mean, before we start looking at the Breeders' Cup, because that's why we're here today, what's your overwhelming memory of horse racing? What was the first horse that you remember watching as a child that got you first into racing?
As a child, I don't really remember a particular horse. I would have to say as a child it'd be Seattle Slew, a Triple Crown winner in like 77, I believe.
Okay, so what's your first? So as you were sort of growing up, and that's when people really develop their love for these things. What was the horse that captures your imagination?
It have to be Secretariat.
Yeah, because obviously being around at that time, did you honestly think at the time that you had seen the best racehorse you were ever going to see at the time?
Yeah, that Belmont race. I mean, wow. Secretariat had had that gene to have a large heart. So stamina.
Yeah, it's a good horse, weren't he?
I couldn't. Every time I rewatched the Belmont race when Secretariat won the Triple Crown, I'm still blown away. I mean, it's just, or maybe Ruffian, the Philly Ruffian. That's another one that came to a bad end. But that's back when they still did those challenge races where there'd be two horses racing just each other, and that's it. I think that kind of ended that challenge, two horses just competing. I think that kind of ended, but that's kind of how the horse racing got started in Kentucky, in America.
We still have the odd race like that where you'll only get 2 or 3 or 4 entries. It's just the way it goes sometimes. But I noticed that very rarely happens in America. I mean, the fewest runners I saw was a race the other day where there was only 5 or 6 runners in. But they tend to be on the turf, don't
they? Ruffian's race was on the dirt. But it seems
I'm not familiar with that horse, to be honest. Was that a good filly, was it?
Filly, yeah, she's a filly.
Okay. So let's bring it back to the modern day now. And I know from reading your social media channels that there is one particular female horse at the moment that has captured your attention over in Australia. Would that be fair to say?
Oh yes, that would be definitely fair to say. That would have to be that Winx Supergirl.
Yeah, I mean I think that's 29 now Group 1 wins in succession for the horse, isn't it?
Yes. Who does that? Nobody.
Well, Frankel won 14 races out of 14, but they weren't all Group 1s. But obviously Winx had raced about 7 or 8 times before she had this run, so she's not unbeaten. But her form over the last 4 or 5 years in Australia is a totally different grade to them. I mean, what is it about her? What do you think marks her out as something special from all the others?
I think for one thing with Winx, she is a total professional. I know that they put the hood, the Batman hoodie, I don't know what they call it over there, on her, to keep the sound down, or the earplugs they use with horses. But she is just a total professional. She knows when she's there, she's just focused on the race. And all these people are screaming and hollering around her, and she acts like she didn't miss a beat. She's just totally focused. I
mean, she is now actually taking on what I would consider, no disrespect to the Australian scene, but if you look at the horses she was beating before, say, there were a lot of them were actually imported from England. So it's fair to say that it should be easier to assess their merits. For instance, Ventura Storm was one that always popped up, and that was a Group 1 winner in Italy. But it wasn't. Richard Hannon used to train it in England, but over in the last year or so, she really has. I think the European trainers have been very sporting, haven't they? Because it became pretty clear on that Winx wasn't going anywhere, was she?
No, she was not going anywhere, and if they wanted to race against her, they would have to go to her.
Exactly, and that's entirely up to them. It's their horse. They can campaign and manage their horse as much as they like. But there will be people out there that say Winx will only be a true racing great if she races outside of Australia. But you've just touched on a horse there, Secretariat. He never raced outside of America, does he? Did he? Does that make him no good?
Yes, he did, actually. He did. They did run him Ontario, Canada, on turf. So he could add
Woodbine, that doesn't count. I class that as American racing. Come on. I class that as American racing. Woodbine, I really do. Oh, all right, then. I'll change that then. Outside of North America then, yeah?
Right, exactly. No.
You didn't see Secretariat go and race in the English King George or race in the Ark to prove that he was any good, did you? So I do think a lot of that is unfair, saying, oh, Winks needs to try, especially with her being a mare as well.
Right.
But I will say one thing, that I do think the hype around her is a bit much, considering what she's beaten. When you look at other mares like Ouija Board, I don't know if you're familiar with a mare called Ouija Board.
Oh yeah, yeah.
I mean, that was an English trained mare trained by Ed Dunlop, and that one races in probably 4 or 5 continents. It won Breeders' Cup, it won in Hong Kong, one in Ireland, one in England. You know, that's a proper horse. It's also the Dam of Australia that won the English Derby. You know,
right.
People forget that Winks. This is only half of Winks' racing career. You know, she still has to show that she can do it in the paddock.
Right, right. I don't know. I think one of the things with Winks is her numbers of 9 consecutive race wins, and what is it, up to 22 or 23 Grade 1 races.
Oh yeah, it is an incredible achievement, isn't it?
That's a big achievement. I mean, in my day, I don't know of a horse that's done that.
Well, no, not to that extent, at such a high level for such a long period of time. That's one thing that you have to do, compliment the horse on, is the constitution of the horse.
Yeah.
Because that has taken some serious racing. I mean, it raced not so long ago, and it was out again on Saturday, and won arguably its toughest race, the Cox Plate. That horse can take some racing, can't it?
Yeah, I mean, 4 Cox Plate. Wow.
Yeah, I mean that is a fantastic achievement over in Australia, without any shadow of a doubt. I mean, but that with a filly is always going to be hard to beat in them races because of the weight allowance, you know. But it does make a difference. But without any shadow of a doubt, Winks is a top class mare.
Oh yeah.
But it'll be interesting to see what connections do with her regarding breeding. I mean, I understand they're going to keep her in Australia for her breeding career as well, and only breed her to Australian sires. I don't know if you've heard anything about that.
Right. Well, American Pharaoh went to Australia in North American winter, and so did one of my favorite current stallions is Frosted. I love the Frosty. So there are horses, and then California Chrome went to Argentina for his winter, which is spring there. I don't know.
Yeah, it's happening quite a lot. As you know, you've said to me you follow Coolmore stallions.
Right.
And a lot of them have done it as well this year, haven't they? Caravaggio's gone to Australia, hasn't he? The other one's gone to Australia as well, Churchill.
Yes.
So it's becoming more and more common, isn't it? But don't forget, Winks can only give birth to 1 foal a year.
Right.
It's not like they can take all these sires out to Australia. They can have 200 and sell them all. Winks is only having 1, so it's going to be a long way to say go to Newmarket to say if they wanted to give her Dubawi or something.
Right.
Or any other sire like that. It's going to be a long way for her to go, isn't it?
It's going to be a long process.
Exactly. So let's obviously say that. Do you think that was her last race then at the weekend, or do you think she'll race again after that?
I think that might have been her last race. No, I don't know exactly what the owners. There's several of them. It's a syndicate, so I don't know what their thoughts are, but that's what the media are saying. The Australian media. So we'll see.
Yeah, I mean, I'm the same as you. I think now, after 29 Group 1 races, I mean, it is getting to the stage now where they have to really, if there's nothing there left for her to do out there, is there? They have to really now, if they're going to start racing, start campaigning her somewhere else, I think. And they're not really going down that road, which is fair enough to them. So I feel now that she's got nothing else to prove in Australia.
Right.
So it'll be interesting to see who they breed her with.